If you've ever tried gluing panels together with bar clamps, you know it can be a fumbly-bumbly mess that doesn't always work out. That's why the great old ones invented the panel clamp. Why apply pressure from just two sides when you can apply from all four without the jump scares? These are great and all, until you see how much one costs. They do make these just add wood kits that are a bit more competitive on price, but not quite as robust. Well, if you don't have the money to save time, then I've got a solution that'll give you an excuse to plan your next trip to the hardware store. We'll compare all these options a little later on. I put together some plans for my clamps you can download for free on my website. They contain material list, dimensions, and other details not explicitly covered here. So give those a download and follow along with the build if you're considering putting a set together yourself. Anyway, that's enough foreplay. We have a hardware store to pillage. I both love and hate this place. Here's our stop. Get you 8 8-inch eye bolts, a 7-inch carriage bolt, a bunch of hex nuts, some nylon lock nuts, 2 T-nuts, 4 big washers, 4 little screws, a 2x4, a rod of poplar dowel, and a threaded rod. Multiply all that by the number of clamps you want. We'll be making 2 today. I've gotten by with 3 for years now, but you know what they say about clamps. You can never have enough. Just get out of my head! And over to the sponsor of today's video, Woodworkers Guild of America. Woodworkers Guild of America is an online learning platform with hundreds of articles, plans, and premium videos, with topics ranging from hand-cut joinery and finishing to furniture design and shop setup. They're all taught by professional woodworkers, and they're easy to follow along no matter what skill level you're at. Fresh content is being uploaded all the time, so there's always something new to learn. I recently adopted a new machine that's been particularly fussy to figure out. Lucky for me, Woodworkers Guild of America is not afraid of the future, and there's no shortage of expert coverage on these newfangled contraptions. Their advice has been paramount in troubleshooting and just figuring this thing out. Better yet is the open discussion you can find on any video, and let me tell you, no question is left unaddressed or unanswered. You can unlock your own membership by scanning the QR code on screen or clicking the link down below. That's 1 full year of Woodworkers Guild of America Premium for $1.49. Offer valid for new members only. That's 1 year for your very own online resource for woodworking instructions, ideas, and information for less than the price of a cup of coffee. Scan or click that link down below to join Woodworkers Guild of America and start learning today. And now, Part 1. Bars. You're going to want to find the straightest 2x4 you can get your filthy hands on. The ones that look all ignominious and pale. I've seen similar guides insist you should use hardwood, but in my experience it isn't necessary. Give these things a few passes on your joiner or your jack plane until the bottoms are flat. I always like to get my home center lumber down to 1 1/4 inches thick to ensure they're all properly straight and what have you. And then run them through the triangle. It's just so loud. Is today going to be the day it finally explodes? Buddy, I've got 2 words for you. Table saw. Make a mark every 2.75 inches long ways, then measure down 1 inch short ways. I think I actually did 3 inches here, but it still maths out beautifully. I might just shed a tear. These little dots are going to be the bullseye for whichever 1-inch form of torture you choose to inflict on your stock. Between us gals, I prefer a Forstner bit. They're the cleanest cut, and the point on the end makes alignment easy. Using anything other than a drill press here is really just multiplying the effort needed to get a strictly worse result. But if you don't have one or feel like you have something to prove, then Godspeed. The fuck was that? Hold a square to the flattened bottom of the bar and align it to the tangent of either side of all the holes you just drilled, striking a line upward. Maybe just proud of the tangent. Or go off on a tangent. Drag that graphite up to the top and remove the marked sections above the holes via saw of choice. It could be of the hand variety, table, or maybe even the dangerous kind. But can your miter saw do this? Before you go hanging that saw up for the day, I'd double check that the dowel fits those new notches if I were you. And give the bar a light sand all around to knock off any sharp corners or edges. You can't have this thing poking someone's eye out. Ugh, why is it all turning out to be so gory? This is starting to remind me of my rendition of Doom I wrote when I was in first grade. It explains a lot. Speaking of dowels, best cut it up now while the saw is still hot. We need them for the Part 2, clamp mechanisms. I don't know what else you would call these things. There's an A and a B version that are pretty much the same, except one of them is way different. A screw advance to engage the clamping action, and a static mechanism. Symbiotic in theory. Anyway, I think we were on dowels. We had some drilling ahead of us, so I whipped up a little V-block out of scrap. There are ways of centering and aligning the very tops of cylindrical stock like this center under your tool. I didn't do any of that. Instead, I closed my eyes tight and let Jesus take the wheel, and it worked. We do not need machinist precision for this operation. One of the shorter dowels with a center hole will go on the static mechanism, which presses on the workpiece from within the bars. This dowel needs to be surfaced so it doesn't interfere with the bars as they put your panels under pressure. No, all my money is gone now. Again, there are time-consuming ways to do this accurately, but we're all out of time. Roughly mark the outermost edge of the center hole drilled closest to the end. Use that as a reference to mark 3/8 of an inch on either side so you get roughly 3/4 centered. Get your square in there and mark the lines. Mark 5/8 of an inch on either end of the dowel and commence the cutting. Okay, that's enough cutting. Now commence the chiseling. Okay, that's enough chiseling. Hole not perfectly centered? Who the f cares? As long as your hole is straight relative to the flat spots, you're good to go, and all the haters can go fall in a ditch. The other shorter dowel with a center hole should be drilled to a width equal to the width of the T-slot nut. You're going to nut on either side and give them a little squish so all the pokey parts leave a stab wound. Drill out those impressions with an itty-bitty bit. Get them T-slots back up in there and give the whole thing a big squish. We'll hack off a section of threaded rod, file away any misshapen or sharp edges, and let that threaded rod do what it does best. Thread. Rod. You should still have an unused 2x4 cutoff. Use this if you don't have plywood scraps laying around. Its fate? Diminished to be pushers. Ram? Push blocks? You know what they say, better to be pushed off than to be pushed on. No, wait. Find their centers and torture them similarly to the way you tortured the rest of its family. But don't go all the way down. Show some restraint for once. Follow that right up with a 13/32 bit or something your threaded rod can narrowly pass through, if you're not into obscure bit sizes. Processing complete. Now all that's left to do is spend 70 minutes pulling tags off the eye bolts and throw it all together. I did a layout and everything, just for the occasion. Not really sure why. Compelled by some deeply seated animalistic instinct to post on Instagram like it's 2016. Follow for the latest project updates and other behind-the-scenes content. Any center dowel that doesn't have a threaded rod gets a carriage bolt, as a form of punishment. Take a little off the top and bottom. If you look closely at these eye bolts, you'll notice they're kind of f***ed. This is why we bought wood that's easily coerced. Pompler. You get the idea. Once both sets are seated, roughly center one of them big old washers and start a hole. This will prevent any undesired attempts at obtaining freedom. Some of these eye bolts came pre-nutted, suggesting the ones that didn't had their 20-cent hex nuts stolen. As you add the end dowels, keep in mind that the spacing needs to be the same across all your clamps or you'll run into strange alignment issues. These 2x4 cutoff pushers can work, but here's why you should do something else. Now only ash remains. I took the liberty of making plywood versions off camera. Wider, sturdy, stable, etc., superior in every way. Sandwiched between a few nuts and a nylon lock nut. The pusher on the screw advance mechanism needs to be able to spin freely as it's being extended or contracted. Part 3. In use, etc. I like to add a layer of blue tape to the inside of both bars. This is wood after all, and I think we both know what happens when wood glue comes into contact with wood. Here's another layout. Here's how it all works. You want the screw mechanism retracted all the way back and set in the first rung. The static mechanism gets set far enough away to contain all the panels to be glued within the confines of the bars. That's to say, don't let your panels hang off the sides of your bars. You can then add the panels to be clamped. Lace the top bar through and drop the end dowels, starting with the static mechanisms. Make sure your pusher is centered between the bars and your panel and commence the pushing. The nuts on the ends are nice because you can advance the screw with a wrench, ratchet, or even a drill. Alright, one more. So how do the DIY hardware store clamps compare to the rest of the competition? After taxes, the total cost for a pair of these came in at
$78.28.
That's in 2025 money. The cost goes down slightly as you build more of them, as some of the hardware naturally comes in bulk, like your threaded rod or your dowel. You may be able to shave even more off depending on retailer or if you have some of the stuff just laying around already. The most similar clamps on the market would be your aluminum body clamps, which seem to start out at around $115 for a pair for the smaller ones, and those get up into well over $100 each for the larger, higher quality products. The Just Add Wood versions are certainly more cost effective at $65 for a pair, or less if you can find them on sale. You do need to add the wood, of course, which would put you at $72.50 if you use the same 2x4 I did for mine. Now the caveat with these is the number of notches is a major limiting factor with the size of the panels you can clamp up. Now I didn't invent the clamps we built here today, though I may have added some personal touches. Versions of these clamps have been floating around woodworking magazines for decades now, originally promoted as a cost-effective alternative to fancier clamps on the market. And I'd say that still holds true. They're only a couple bucks more than the budget kits, but they're far sturdier, more adaptable, and can handle wider panels. The aluminum or metal body clamps are nice, sure, but with a bit of blue tape on your bars, these can do the job just as well for a lot less money. So are DIY clamps worth it? Well, if you have an afternoon to spare and the means to do so, then yes, absolutely. Fun fact about the original versions of these clamps I made all those years ago, I actually made a video to go with those too. Never saw the light of day because it wasn't up to my standards. I guess you could call that the stillborn one. If you found this video useful or entertaining, then let me and or the algorithm know. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You can even hit that little notification bell so you know the waking second I upload the next one. Again, there's free plans for these clamps along with a bunch of other cool stuff on my website, mujincontact.com. So go check that all out if you want to support the channel, or I like coffee too. Finally, huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Woodworkers Guild of America. Click the link down below or scan the QR code on screen if you're on a desktop or watching on a TV. Otherwise, I guess you would pull your phone out and turn it around in the mirror and take a picture. For 1 year, a premium membership for only $1.49. Offer valid for new members only. Well worth it, people. Get over there and join Woodworkers Guild of America today. Well, folks, thanks for hanging out with me in my wood torture dungeon. We got the clamps built. We had a good laugh. It's time for me to go now, so I'll leave you with my epitaph. Godspeed.